Hi everyone, Thirstiny Traptano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of this new Dreamville and J. Cole mixtape, D-Day, a GANGSTA GRILLZ mixtape. This is a new mixtape from J. Cole's Dreamville Records, following the third installment of the label's Revenge of the Dreamers series that dropped 2 years ago, which eventually expanded with a dozen more tracks in the deluxe version. And now it seems like Dreamville's picking up speed with another project, 15 more tracks in such a short amount of time. And they're doing it with the rugged and raw aesthetics that have defined many big and influential drops associated with DJ Drama and Gangsta GRILLZ. Pretty much the gold standard when it comes to mixtapes. So that's cool, and I think this record also serves as an opportunity to look back on Dreamville's history as a label and as a collective, basically going from nothing in the late 2000s to legitimately being in those discussions around some of the most significant label-driven rap cliques of the early and mid-2010s. I mean, nobody in their right mind would put them above like TDE or Good Music at the time, but as the dust has settled, Dreamville has not only persevered but grown. I mean, just contrast this project to Revenge of the Dreamers 2 in 2015, where the track list and the artist roster was solid but very meager. Revenge 3, by comparison, was more of a force to be reckoned with just by virtue of the sheer size of it. But that project also felt like it was just as much about the features as it was the core artists on the label. D-Day, by comparison, may not be as gigantic, but I do think it is a better ride quality and consistency-wise, with key voices such as JID and EarthGang sounding like they're at the top of their game. And the long game is what it seems like Dreamville has successfully played here, because they're at a point where they seem almost unchallengeable in a way, collectively. Because, like, what was the last major rap label collective release that dropped that everybody talked about? YSL Slime Language 2? That is nowhere near the same league as this. But still, this thing is a mixtape, and with it being a mixtape, there's no huge overarching theme guiding all the tracks outside of it being a little rough around the edges here and there, and that's fine for something that is, you know, sort of in this lane. All in all, the whole thing just runs like a compilation showing off the label's various talents, and a lot of highlights come out of it as a result of that. There are immense bangers on this thing, like the opening track, Stick, where Kenny Mason and Sheck West bring an incredible amount of energy and vocal force between JID and J. Cole's very skilled and lyrical verses. There are just huge trap beats on this track as well, gigantic horn samples. You couldn't ask for a stronger opener. Starting 5 is also nothing to sneeze at too, with Lou and Kaz consistently bringing very introspective, thoughtful bars against moody jazz horns, with an eventual beat switch that brings on Omen, who is sounding in his verse very much like a young Common, and not in a bad way. There are, of course, a few Ari Lennox tracks in the mix as well. Part of me does wish production-wise she was a bit more well-supported than just getting some generic trap beats laced with soul chops, but this is a mixtape, you're not going to get anything too lavish, and her vocal performances themselves are great. Lyrics and the singing is fun, sensual, alluring. The tunes are there as well, so again, these moments definitely stand out past some other tracks on the project. There are also a few solo J. Cole spots on this tape as well. Nothing too heavy on the structure side of these tracks, they mostly read like freestyles. There's Heaven's EP, which we all heard about 6 months or so ago, mostly a verse with J. Cole illustrating his personal growth and progress. Current mindset and perspective works decently as a closer for the whole thing. Then there's Freedom of Speech, which topically scratches very similar itches, but with a delivery and a bass-heavy beat loaded with chipmunked soul chops that seems very, very Drake-esque, except I'll say with a similar energy. I think Cole comes across a lot more charismatic and maybe having more to say, especially in terms of describing how his money, success, desires, aspirations guide his views of the world around him, sometimes toxified a bit. There's no giant takeaway from this track, I would say, but when he's spitting lines like this one right here, I definitely feel it, because when you compare mixtape era J. Cole to today, it's like a totally different phenomenon. The highlights on this thing continue on to JOZI flows, which I think has the best interlabel chemistry. Boss and Earth Gang sound very much on the same wavelength in terms of the eccentricity, the flows. Berry from SIMPSON, which is led mostly by Jid, is just a lyrical atom bomb, so good it sounds like even 2 Chainz did not slouch on this one, as he did on the Earth Gang track, where I think he drops one of his worst features ever. Honestly, I have no idea what these horrible nursery rhyme flows are that he's working with, but they are not it. There's also Everybody Ain't Shit starring Earth Gang, which hits just as hard as anything off their last record. The song is packed with funny refrains and smart confrontational bars about everybody and everything, just not being shit. Cause, I think, also has a pretty strong showing on the Big Trouble freestyle on the back end of this thing. Conversely, there are a few average cuts on the record, a couple more that fail to kind of go the distance. Loot on the song Like Wine does shine in moments, but the second verse is so much weaker than the first in terms of like the rhymes, in terms of the points being made, in terms of the flow, which breaks at a few points. And Ballin' in Newport with Omen is just awkward from start to finish in terms of the writing, the delivery, and also it has one of the most off mixes. Again, I know this thing is a mixtape, yes, that is true, but truly and honestly, there are some mixes, there are some beats on this thing that are professional grade. You know, it's not like the thing is just like consistently rough around the edges. There's almost like a quality variance that I just wish wasn't there. As I was alluding to with the 2 Chainz appearance on that Earth Gang track, like not every feature on the thing is fire, but I'll say this, overall D-Day shows Dreamville, in my opinion, in a very good place creatively. This thing completely blows Revenge of the Dreamers 2 out of the water, feels much more focused and hard-hitting and to the point than Revenge of the Dreamers 3. And who we know to be the label's biggest stars shine the brightest, while some who are maybe more on that B level, not in an insulting way, but aren't stealing the show in the way a guy like Jid is, even they are dropping some really impressive verses and moments on this project too. But yeah, I was expecting, honestly, this thing to be a bit more of a chore than it was to listen to. It actually wasn't a chore at all. It's a pretty entertaining tape, and just cool to hear them be able to reform in this way, in this mixtape lane, and still have Dreamville's talents shine through. I'm feeling a light 7 on this project. Transition, have you given this record a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe and please don't cry. Hit the bell as well. Over here next to my head is another video you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Dreamville, forever.